Hi, I'm Dana, and with it still being so early in the new year, I thought now would be a good time to talk about habits for autistic people, because it's one of the things that I have focused on so much over my life. Like every single year I've been one of those people that has like my list of resolutions and my Pinterest board of like manifestations and all the like ways that I'm going to change and become a better person and just completely revamp my entire life and self. And it's always all about changing habits and creating habits and breaking habits, at least for me. And it's an absolute nightmare. And it's one of the things that, especially before I knew I was autistic, made me feel just so awful about myself, because I was like, everybody else can form habits, everyone else can break their habits. I feel like it takes me such a long time and I have to be so specific about it. And there's just so much more to it for autistic people. And that was a thought that I'd had like since finding out that I'm autistic and being able to connect the dots. But it's also something that I've seen more people talking about on TikTok and been able to form more of like an idea of and looked a bit more into. So it feels like a really good time to make a video about it. Okay, so I've got some notes. I'm trying to be organised. So we're going to start with like starting and forming habits and maintaining habits and move on to breaking habits that you already have. And that's how we're going to do this. So for me personally, it's incredibly difficult to form a habit, and it's very much because for me, and from what I've seen online and from other autistic people, for a lot of autistic people, it's very, very difficult to implement habits because it feels like the same level of difficulty each and every time. You know, when an autistic or neurotypical person's getting into, say, showering every day, going to the gym, doing yoga, drinking water, anything like that, sure, at first maybe it's hard to remember to do it, maybe you don't really have the motivation, maybe it's, you know, whatever. Like, obviously I'm not speaking from experience on this, but from what I've seen and from what I've heard from others, it gets easier. Like, that is the formation of a habit. Is at the start it might be kind of difficult, but as it becomes a habit, it's easier and easier to do until it's a habit. You don't even have to think about it. And I'm out here like, I have to think about every step when I make myself a cup of tea. And I make myself like 5 cups of tea every single day. Obviously it's an easy thing to do, but just because it's a habit for me, it's something I do regularly, it's not gotten any easier. I still have to think about the entire process every single time. And that goes with forming habits and routines as well. Like, as much as I've said, like, I'm not doing New Year's resolutions, I don't believe in like just randomly starting things, just like, I've said a lot, but I also was like, I need to drink more water. Last year, honestly, I think I probably drank like straight water maybe 6 or 7 times, like in the entire year. And it was purely because I was like hungover and was like, water? I don't drink water. But yesterday and today and on the 1st, I've drank at least 2 of these filled with like just pure plain water. And it's very much the thing of like, I'm trying to make it into a habit that every time it's empty and I get up to go to the bathroom or make myself another cup of tea or whatever, I go and fill it up. And as I'm sat here and I sip my tea, I'm trying to make it into a habit that every other time I reach for something I want to drink, it's the water instead. But I also know that it's not going to get easier. It's not going to become a habit in the way things are for other people, because number one, I really fucking want some Pepsi. And number two, I make myself like 5 cups of tea every single day, and I still have to think about it and go through the whole process and do it in the way that, you know, I do it, and have the full entire brain process of someone's making a cup of tea for the first time. You know, like a great example of that is that my best friend's American, so I've gone over to their house and been like, here are my tea bags, you've got a kettle, thank God for that, and had like, they've offered, I haven't been like, make me a cup of tea, but you know, like, they don't know how to make me a cup of tea. Like, even when it's another British person, we don't know how each other likes it, but they fully are like, what do I do? So I have to be like, you put the tea bag in, and then we put the sugar in, and now you pour in the water, and now we wait for it to brew, and now you can take out the tea bag and give it a squeeze and put that in the bin and get the milk and pour in the milk until it's the right kind of temperature, and then that's my cup of tea done. And that is how I think about it every single time. And I know that that's the thing that I bring up the most often, but I also feel like so often when I make videos like this, people are like, oh, well, everybody feels like that. And there's no acceptance of the fact that, like, yeah, but it's kind of like different for autistic people. And I don't ever like to say that it's worse, because I don't think it is. I just do think that it's different. I also have the added factors of being an autistic person who I think I have OCD, but my doctor said that he can't diagnose me with OCD when I'm also autistic, which is a lie and not true. So I am getting a new GP, but I'm not diagnosed with OCD. It's just the thing where I'm like, I reckon I might do. So I don't want to be like because I'm autistic with OCD, but I do think that some of this also ties to things that aren't entirely just due to me being autistic, you know? And that is that some things have to be right. And I can't explain to you what the right thing is. I just know when I have the right thing. So for example, when it comes to drinking water, I've bought a bunch of water bottles in the past. I've had the straws, I've had the ones you pour, I've had the ones you suck, like I've had the cups with the straws, you know, I've bought them and I can't get into it. I don't like the way it feels. It's not right. I can't tell you why it's not right, but it's not. Whereas this, just metal water bottle, opens just like a normal bottle, has lid, you know, like most standard bottle in the world, that's right. And I'll give that it helps that it's got space on it, and I'm like, yeah, space, I love space, special interest of mine, which is another thing that definitely helps autistic people to form habits if it's part of your special interest and it's something that you genuinely like enjoy and automatically do. But if something doesn't feel right to me, no matter how much I might want to do it, I just will not be able to. Now moving on to breaking habits, because I think that's where I'll be able to like tie it back in and have like a cohesive video. I find it very, very, very difficult to break habits, and it's usually because they will be a part of my routine. If something is what you could consider a habit for me, honestly, I don't really feel like I have habits. I feel like I have things that are in my routine and things that are not within my routine. And I guess you could argue that's what a habit is, but you know, we're trying to create ways to actually communicate these things. I'm trying my best. So one of the things that is often discussed and that we're all probably aware of by this point is that a lot of people with neurodivergencies have that sort of addictive personality gene. So when we get into a habit, even if it's not a healthy one, even if it's something like smoking, that is a part of our routine. And like using smoking as an example, because I am a smoker and not currently trying to actually quit, it's a part of my routine. It's you know, obviously like I am someone who's like, oh, it's my dirty habit, but like it's a part of my routine. I often like, when I finish filming this, I'll edit the video and then I'll have a smoke, and that's like the thing that like turns on my brain to be like, we can transition to a new event now. And I don't know what I could replace that with, really. But in the past, the only way that I have been able to break routines and change things that I'm doing and break bad habits is by completely like transitioning to a new routine. Like it's worked best for me when I've moved house, honestly. Almost every time I moved house, I would be like, oh, I'm vegetarian now, I dress like this now, I'm, you know, something big would change, because I was like, oh, it's the perfect time, everything else is changing in a terrifying way. I can make a decision and change a part of my routine and create a new habit or break a habit. But it very much has to be that transitional thing for me. And it's the same, see how we're getting cohesive, it's the same when I'm trying to create a habit. It has to feel like it's just a transition, like it's just some sort of addition to my routine and to my life. Such as with drinking water. You know, I haven't created a whole like outside thing of like, I'm going to drink this much water. Like first of all, I've not put any pressure on it. I've just been like, I should drink a bit more water. I've noticed that I'm drinking at least 2 of these a day, and I'm like, oh, that's good, that is more water than the previous nothing. But like if I drank half of one a day, I'd still be like, that's more than it was, innit? Go me. But if I was fully like, I'm going to drink water now instead of tea and Pepsi, I probably wouldn't be, because I wouldn't be going to get my cuppa, so I wouldn't be in the kitchen, so I wouldn't think, oh, I'm going out into the kitchen, so I'll just grab my bottle and get some water. And obviously I would be drinking water because I wouldn't be drinking tea, so at some point I'd get thirsty and be like, oh, I need a drink, better grab some water. But there's so much pressure and like change in my routine, there's a difference there. I'm lacking something, I'm lacking my cuppa, you know? Being able to just transition, and like I probably will be drinking less tea. I haven't counted, I haven't tallied it up, but chances are I am drinking less tea because I'm drinking water now, so I'm already getting some liquid. And I think that to a point it also again ties into the whole thing of like a lot of neurodivergent people having very addictive personalities, because once it's something that I am able to start introducing, I'm into it, I'm down for it, like let's do the thing, you know? But a lot of things really do have to be things that I enjoy. I have to incorporate it to be like parts of special interests and things. Because like an example of that is I had about 1.5 years before COVID hit where I went to the gym every single day. Like I think I missed maybe like 3 or 4 days in like over a year, you know? I went every day, whether I was swimming, whether I was like in the actual gym doing different classes, like I was at the gym every day. And it's one of those things where people are like, oh, you've made it part of your routine, that's a habit now. And I was like, no, it goddamn is not. Like it was never ever any part of my routine or any part of my habit. Every single morning I would wake up and I would be like, oh my God, I have to go to the gym now. because it was the right thing to do. If I didn't go to the gym, I felt anxious and weird and like bad all day because I'd like let myself down and I wasn't being good enough and like, you know, all sorts of other crap. Like I felt genuinely emotionally terrible when I didn't go to the gym. But also going to the gym wasn't fun or nice. Every single time I went to the gym, it was a huge amount of effort. Everything that I did at the gym was a huge amount of effort that I did not want to do. I did not feel any sort of dopamine hit at the end of it. I never got any sort of like, you know, people talk about how they feel better after going to the gym and they got this out and they did this. And like, I did not ever feel better. I was just like, yeah, I've done it. You know, like it made absolutely no difference to me on like an emotional, personal level. But to anyone else, that looked like it was a part of my routine. It looked like it was a habit that I formed that I enjoyed doing or whatever else, when it was just a huge amount of pressure on myself. And when COVID hit and the gym closed, I was so fucking relieved. And people were like, oh, you must be really disappointed. You're probably really upset. Oh, you really liked going, didn't you? And I was like, I hated every fucking moment of it. I was so relieved to not have to go. It wasn't a habit. Like it just continued to be so much effort. And there is like some degree of concern there that's what everything will always be, you know? Like I don't think non-autistic people realise how much everything that I do in a day is effort compared to them. Like I'm sorry, like I know I've already said I don't like picturing it as like, oh, we have it worse and we have it like this. But the fact of the matter is, like, it just doesn't take as much energy for holistic people to exist in the world as it does autistic people. And as much as I can add things and introduce things to my routine that may appear to be habits to other people and might look like habits to an outside perspective, I don't honestly feel like I've ever formed a habit in my life. I feel like I can sometimes add things to my routine and I can make them stay there for as long as I want to. But once I have a good enough reason to drop them, once I don't have to do the thing anymore, I'm so fucking out, because it's not actually a habit, it's not actually part of my routine, it's not something I want to do. Whereas when it is something I want to do, like I feel genuinely just a bit better about myself knowing that I'm drinking water. I'm not as like health anxious as I have been the last like 2 years, knowing that I only drank Pepsi and tea. You know, like there's just a lot of benefits to it for my own mental well-being. And I also get a really cool bottle that I really like a lot. And adding things like that, it just, again, like it is the same level of effort every time, but it's also such a low level of effort, and it's a level of effort that I do feel like I'm actually getting some sort of payback and reward from. I feel good for it. Whereas going to the gym, I never felt good about, you know, I was like, I'm glad I've done it, but I don't actually feel happy and good and like, yes, I would do that again. In the same way I do when I finish my water bottle. I'm like, oh yeah, look at my spacey water bottle, a little bit of astronaut water, can I go refill that? You know, like it's such a silly little small thing to keep myself going, but it has kept me going on it, and I think it's going to continue working. I can imagine this being my, like, when people talk about their emotional support water bottle and stuff, like this is going to be my baby. I feel like I've ended this on like a bit of like a downer, be like, autistic people can't actually form habits, but like we can. There's just so, like, we have to go in a different way about doing it. And I do also think that it's just a lot harder for us to break habits, and we will do better by transitioning to new habits to replace them, healthier habits, better habits, habits we actually want to participate in, you know, that kind of thing. I took so many notes and this still feels like a very disjointed video, but I'll find out how bad it is while I edit. So for now, if you have any thoughts and opinions on anything that I've said, if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong, if you have anything to add, if you want to give me your own experiences, any of that I would love to read in the comments. I have started actually replying to people in the comments now, sometimes, more often, the last like day or two. I am using the new year to try and like kickstart things I want to do, and like kickstart ways to feel good about myself and feel like I'm bettering myself, but I'm also just not putting any pressure on it. So yeah, I'm currently posting on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. So if you want more content from me, you're about to get a lot more content from me. So please do subscribe and stick around, like this video. You can follow me on other social media platforms where I post daily on TikTok, sometimes on Instagram, and a bunch of Doctor Who stuff over on Twitter. And if you wanted to support me monetarily, you could also donate to me on Ko-fi or become a Patreon member. But for now, my brain is going to dribble out of my ears. It's not. I am fine. I'm absolutely fine. I've just been talking non-stop for a good long while now, and I want to stop. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.